Welcome to Medicare School Daily, where we help you understand Medicare, save money, avoid mistakes, and above all else, get the most out of your Medicare benefits. Now, today's topic is fixing a mistake that you made during the annual enrollment period. Now, as you know, Medicare has an annual enrollment period every year. That's October 15th to December 7th. We have 7 weeks where we can switch plans. And I just want to do a quick reminder of what can be done during the open enrollment period as people make switches. Number one, you can switch your prescription drug plan. Any drug plan that's in your market, which is typically your county or zip code, if that's available in that area, then you can switch from one plan to another. No health questions asked whatsoever. You can also switch Advantage plans. So if you're on one Advantage plan, you want to go to another one, no problem. As long as it's in your market, in your area, then you can switch that Advantage plan, providing you do not have end-stage renal disease. Remember, end-stage renal disease is the only health question that is ever asked someone who wants to get an Advantage plan or switch Advantage plans. If you have end-stage renal, you cannot get or switch Advantage plans. But during these 7 weeks, we can switch. We can also, if we're on an Advantage plan and we would like to go into a supplemental plan, we can also make the switch during this particular point in time. Now, remember, if you make the switch, you have to medically qualify to pick up that supplemental plan, but this is the time we do it. And then lastly, if you're on a supplemental plan and you no longer want to be on that, you like maybe the Advantage plans in your market, you can make that switch, again, as long as you don't have end-stage renal disease during those dates. And if I make any switches of these types of plans during these 7 weeks, the new plans are going to go into effect January 1 of the following year. But let's suppose that I do make one of these switches and I made a mistake. I'm disappointed. I regret what I've done. Medicare knows this is going to happen, and they do make provision, so they're going to make an allowance for you to fix some of the mistakes that could be made during this time. And so let me explain how you correct those mistakes. So the first thing that you're going to notice to fix these mistakes, we have to do so during the first 3 months of the year, the very first quarter of the year. And this particular period is called the open enrollment period, different than annual. Remember, annual was October 15th to December 7th. So this is the first 3 months, the open enrollment period. So let me show you what you can do and what you can't do during the open enrollment period. Number one, what you notice can do is if you're on an Advantage plan and for whatever reason you're unhappy with that choice you made, maybe because your doctor ends up not being in the network, or you're unhappy with maybe it's an HMO and you'd rather be on a PPO, or some other reason, you can move from any Advantage plan to another Advantage plan during this time, as long as it's in your particular market. Okay, no health questions asked whatsoever, except for the end-stage renal question. So anyone moving from an Advantage to Advantage or from a supplemental to Advantage, always we have to find out, do you have end-stage renal disease? Because if you have end-stage renal disease, you cannot switch Advantage plans or get a new one. So as long as that is not the issue, you can do this during the first quarter. The other thing you can do is you can drop an Advantage plan. Let's say if you went on one for the first time, or you've been on one for a while and you decide during this first 3 months that you're unhappy with your Advantage plan, you can drop the Advantage plan, disenroll from it, and you can return to original Medicare. Remember, this is the A and B of Medicare, and you can, without any health questions asked, you can add a drug plan. However, remember, most people that take original Medicare A and B get a supplemental plan. Those are the ones that have a different letter, F plan, G plan, N plan. Any supplemental plan that you would want, more than likely you're going to have to medically qualify to be able to pick that plan up and add it to your coverage. Okay, so you have to medically qualify. So if you drop your Advantage plan, return to original Medicare, you may be subject to underwriting, which means the underwriter has to approve your health conditions. Pre-existing conditions are certainly going to come into play in that as well. Okay, but anyway, so those are the things that you can do during this first quarter. Now let me show you what you can't do. Notice again, I said can't do. These are the things you can't do during this quarter. First quarter of the year, you cannot change prescription drug plans. So the prescription drug plan that you selected during the annual enrollment period, October 15th, December 7th, is going to be your plan for the whole year. We cannot switch off that plan at all. All right, so that's something we cannot do, nor if we have chosen to go with a supplemental plan, can we stop that supplemental plan and then pick up an Advantage plan? Now, we can do this next year during the annual enrollment period, but we cannot do it during this first quarter of the year. And so these are the things that are just off limits to us during the open enrollment period. So yes, there is an opportunity for some mistakes to be corrected and for us to get on different plans, but these are the things that we cannot do. To learn more, watch the related video or check out our most recent video. Also, be sure you click to subscribe for free and get notified every time we post a new video. To watch our complete Medicare workshop, go to MedicareSchool.com. And finally, when you're ready to compare all your insurance options and get free enrollment help from one of our Medicare School Guides, call the number on the screen. See you next time.